There was a time when they looked at you and saw nothing but convenience. You were the one who always showed up, who always forgave, who always believed in them, even when they gave you every reason not to. You offered kindness, loyalty, and love with an open hand, never keeping score, never expecting repayment. You fought for them, defended them, and stood beside them when the world turned its back. And yet, when it mattered most, they abandoned you. They walked away as if you were disposable, as if everything you had given meant nothing. You remember the pain, don't you? That hollow ache in your chest when you realize they didn't value you the way you valued them. The sleepless nights spent wondering what you did wrong, replaying every moment, questioning if you should have tried harder, been quieter, cared less. You lived in that torment, drowning in the silence they left behind, while they moved on as if you never existed. But life has a way of balancing the scales. And now they're the ones who can't sleep at night. They're the ones who sit in the darkness, scrolling through old messages, staring at pictures, trapped in the memories of a time they thought they could erase. Their mind is a prison, and every cell is filled with reminders of you. They thought they were winning when they discarded you. They thought they had the upper hand when they chose to betray, to hurt, to leave without a second thought. They told themselves they were better off without you, that you would chase them, that you would crumble, that one day you'd come back, arms open, ready to forgive, ready to accept whatever scraps of attention they were willing to give. But you didn't. Instead, you rose, you healed, you became something stronger than they ever imagined. And that, my friend, is their deepest regret. Because now, the silence they once used to hurt you has turned against them. It screams at them in moments of stillness, forcing them to see what they lost. The same silence they once dismissed now echoes with your absence, growing louder each day. They try to drown it out with distractions, with temporary company, with whatever meaningless pursuits they can find, but no matter how far they run, they can't escape the truth. They missed you, and it's eating them alive. They cry not because they love you, but because they have finally understood your worth. And they hate themselves for not seeing it sooner. They cry because they know they had something rare, something irreplaceable, and they destroyed it with their own hands. They cry because they see you moving forward, untouched by their absence, thriving in ways they never expected. The same people who left you behind now sit in regret, watching from the shadows, wishing they could undo the past. But there is no undoing what has been done. There is no erasing the choices they made. And the best part? You don't even need revenge. You don't need to lift a single finger, say a single word, or waste a single breath. Karma has already taken care of it. They are suffering the consequences of their own actions, and nothing you could ever do would be worse than what they're feeling right now. Because they know deep in their hearts that they can never have you back. That is the beauty of walking away. So, don't waste another second mourning the ones who failed to see your value. Don't spend another moment wishing they had chosen differently. They had their chance, they had you, and they threw it away. And now, as you stand in your strength, as you move forward with a heart that no longer bleeds for them, they sit alone, drowning in the weight of their own regret. They are crying now, not for you, for themselves. Because they finally see what they lost, and they will never get it back. There was a time when they thought you would always be there, a time when they assumed that no matter how many times they hurt you, ignored you, or made you feel small, you would still come back, still fight for them, still pour yourself into a bond they treated as disposable. They convinced themselves that your kindness was a weakness, that your patience was permission, that your love was something they could abuse without consequence. And now the weight of their choices has come crashing down on them, because you are gone. They wake up every day with the bitter taste of regret on their tongue, realizing too late that the very thing they took for granted was the one thing they needed most. And this realization does not arrive softly. It does not whisper. It roars in their mind like a storm, relentless, unforgiving, drowning them in the echoes of what once was. They took your presence as a given, never stopping to think that one day you might stop waiting, that one day you might stop answering, that one day you might gather every broken piece of yourself and walk away for good. But here's the truth they never understood. Nothing in this world is owed. Not love, not loyalty, not patience. Every act of kindness you gave was a gift, and they spat on it, believing you would never take it back. And now that you have, they are left with nothing but emptiness. The same calls they ignored, they now long to receive. The same words of encouragement they dismissed, they now yearn to hear. The same presence they once found suffocating, they now crave more than anything else. But it is too late, because the person they betrayed no longer exists. They thought they could always return to you, that no matter how deeply they cut, you would still stand there with open arms, waiting for them to come to their senses. But people are not infinite wells of patience. Even the strongest hearts break. Even the kindest souls grow tired. And when that moment comes, when someone finally realizes their own worth and walks away, there is no reversing it. And that is what they fear the most. They fear that they will never again find someone who cared as deeply as you did, that no matter how far they search, no matter how many new people they surround themselves with, no one will ever see them the way you saw them. No one will ever tolerate their flaws, uplift their spirit, or believe in them the way you once did. They thought you were replaceable, but now, in your absence, they have learned the most painful lesson of all. Some people only come once in a lifetime. And now they are trapped in the unbearable silence of their own making, trapped in memories that no longer serve them, in a love that will never return, in the knowledge that they lost something irreplaceable. At night, when the distractions fade and the world grows quiet, they sit with the full weight of their actions pressing down on them. They close their eyes, hoping to escape the regret, but instead they see you, the way you smiled at them, the way you cared, the way you gave them everything without expecting anything in return. And they realize they had everything they ever needed, and they destroyed it. Now they're crying, not because they miss you, not because they love you, but because they know they failed you in a way that can never be undone. Because they finally see what was in front of them all along, and no matter how much they wish, no matter how much they pray, they can never go back and fix it. They had you, and they lost you, and nothing will ever be the same again. They expected you to crumble. They thought you would fall apart without them, that you would be lost, desperate, waiting for their return. They believed their absence would break you, that their betrayal would leave you shattered beyond repair. But life has a way of humbling those who think they hold power over others, because instead of falling, you rose. Instead of drowning in sorrow, you became something they never expected, stronger. And now they're watching from a distance, seeing a version of you they never thought possible. The confidence in your step, the peace in your face, the way you've rebuilt yourself without them. It terrifies them because they realize something they never once considered. You never needed them. They see you thriving, and it eats at them like a sickness. It burns them from the inside, because they were convinced that you couldn't survive without them. They thought leaving you would teach you a lesson, that it would remind you of how much you needed them. But the only lesson learned was theirs. Because instead of drowning in your pain, you used it as fuel. Instead of allowing their betrayal to define you, you turned it into your motivation. Every scar they left on your heart became a reason to push harder, to prove to yourself that their absence was not a loss, but a blessing. And now they sit in their regret, watching from the shadows as you move forward, untouchable. They see the way you smile, effortlessly, genuinely, without a trace of the hurt they once caused, and it crushes them. Because they told themselves that you would always be broken, that your happiness depended on them. But now they see you laughing, growing, building a life far greater than the one you had with them, and it is a truth they cannot escape. They stalk your progress in silence, scrolling through your pictures, reading your words, trying to piece together how you became so powerful without them. They search for cracks, for signs that maybe, just maybe, you still miss them. But there are none. And that's what kills them the most. Because now they are the ones who feel invisible. They are the ones screaming into the void, hoping you hear them. Hoping you feel even a fraction of what they feel now, but you don't. You don't hear them. You don't see them. Because you have moved on, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. They underestimated you. They thought you would always be the person who tolerated their indifference, who forgave their cruelty, who stayed even when you were given every reason to walk away. But they do not recognize the person you've become. They do not understand the fire that now burns in your soul, the strength that came from their betrayal. And now they feel powerless. Because what can they do? They can't reach out. They know they no longer have that right. They can't apologize. It wouldn't change anything. They can't take back the way they made you feel, the nights you spent crying, the pain they so carelessly inflicted. So they do the only thing left to do. They watch. They watch in silence, hoping you will acknowledge them, hoping for a sign that you still feel something for them, but you don't. And that is their karma. To witness from the outside the life they were never meant to be a part of, to understand far too late that their greatest mistake was believing you would always be beneath them, when in reality you were always destined to rise, and rise you did. Now every moment of your happiness is a knife to their ego. Every step forward is a reminder of how wrong they were. Every success you achieve is proof that they never had power over you. They thought they were the main character in your story. But now they realize they were nothing more than a lesson. At first they didn't think much of it. They told themselves they could replace you, that there were plenty of people out there who could fill the space you once occupied, that what you gave them wasn't unique. So they went looking. They searched for someone who would listen to them the way you did. Someone who would understand their unspoken words, who would tolerate their flaws, who would be patient with their shortcomings. They thought they could find another version of you, someone who would care without limits, forgive without hesitation, and always be there, no matter what. But reality hit them harder than they ever expected, because no one else was you. The people they found lacked your depth. The conversations felt shallow, the connections forced, the warmth they had taken for granted in you was nowhere to be found in others. No one else laughed at their jokes the same way. No one else supported them through their darkest moments. No one else understood their chaos and stayed anyway. It was in their search for your replacement that they realized something painful. They hadn't just lost a person. They had lost an experience. An irreplaceable, once-in-a-lifetime presence that couldn't be duplicated or substituted. And that's when the regret started to sink in. They thought you were ordinary when they had you. They treated you like an option, assuming that people like you come and go, that love like yours was easy to find. But now they understand you weren't just anyone, you were the rarest kind. And when they let you go, they lost something they will never find again. Now, every new connection they form is haunted by you. They sit across from someone new, and yet their mind drifts back to you. The new person laughs, but it doesn't sound like your laughter. They share their stories, but the conversation lacks the comfort they once felt with you. They reach for affection, but it feels hollow, mechanical, because it isn't you. They try to convince themselves that they made the right choice, that they didn't need you, that they're better off. But deep down, they know they're lying to themselves, because no matter how much they try to fill the void, it remains. And that's the kind of regret that doesn't fade. They may never admit it to you, their pride might keep them from speaking the truth, but they feel it in every moment of silence, in every failed connection, in every longing glance at memories they can never relive. They find themselves wondering how they ever believed they could replace you, how they ever thought they could throw away something so rare and find it again in someone else. They underestimated you. They thought your kindness was common, your patience something they could find anywhere. But now, after searching, after trying, after failing, they realize the truth. Some people are simply irreplaceable. And you, my friend, were one of them. Now, they sit with that knowledge, unable to change the past, unable to undo their mistake. Because life does not grant second chances for the foolish. It only leaves them with the echoes of what they lost, forcing them to live with the haunting reality that they had something extraordinary and they destroyed it with their own hands. They are trapped in the aftermath of their own choices. And every day they wake up to the same crushing realization. There will never be another you. At first, they felt powerful. They believed walking away from you was a victory, a statement of their control. They convinced themselves that life would only get better without you, that they would be happier, freer, unburdened by the connection they so carelessly discarded. But the universe has a way of restoring balance. Because now the very life they thought would be so much better without you is crumbling before their eyes. The things they were once so sure of are slipping through their fingers. The confidence they once had is replaced by uncertainty. And the peace they expected to find, it's nowhere to be seen. Their days don't feel the same. They wake up with a strange emptiness, an unease they can't quite shake. At first, they ignore it, blaming it on stress, bad luck, or just a rough patch. But as time passes, it becomes undeniable. Something is missing. Something is wrong. And deep down, they know exactly what it is. It's you. You were their stability in ways they never realized. You were the one who brought them calm when their world was chaotic, the one who reassured them when they doubted themselves, the one who gave them purpose even when they didn't appreciate it. But now all of that is gone. Now they are the ones who feel lost. They look around and see that the people they chose over you don't truly care. The ones they ran to in their arrogance don't have the same patience, the same loyalty, the same depth of connection. They experience firsthand what it means to be disposable, used for a moment, then cast aside. And it hits them hard because suddenly they understand exactly what they did to you. Everything they once took for granted is now something they long for. The safety of your presence, the comfort of your voice, the way you made them feel like they mattered. They search for that feeling in others, but it's gone. No one treats them the way you did. No one believes in them the way you did. No one gives them the same level of care they once dismissed so easily. And now the regret begins to poison them from the inside out. They replay their choices over and over again, dissecting every moment, wondering where they went wrong. They tell themselves that maybe they could have done things differently, that maybe if they had just appreciated you a little more, if they had just held on a little tighter, they wouldn't be feeling this way. But it's too late. And the worst part? Life isn't just taking away their peace, it's stripping them of the very things they prioritized over you. The friendships they thought would be better than your presence, falling apart. The new relationships they believed would bring them more happiness, filled with emptiness and betrayal. The life they built on the foundation of their arrogance, cracking under the weight of their own choices. They thought they could walk away and never look back. But life has a way of making sure people face the consequences of their actions. And now, as they sit in the wreckage of the life they chose, they finally understand They are not suffering because you wished harm upon them. They are suffering because this is the price of their own decisions. They are learning the hard way that what they threw away was not something small, not something replaceable, not something that could be forgotten. It was everything. And as they sit alone, watching their life unravel, they now understand something they refused to see before. Losing you was not just a mistake. It was the beginning of their downfall. It started subtly, a passing thought, a fleeting image of you in their mind. At first they brushed it off, just a random memory, nothing more. They told themselves they had moved on, that what happened was in the past. But as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the memories didn't fade. They grew stronger. No matter how much they tried to distract themselves, your presence lingered. In the quiet moments, in the spaces between conversations, in the silence of the night, they found themselves thinking of you, your voice, your laughter, the way you looked at them when you still cared. It plays in their head like a song they can't turn off. And it's torture, because now every single memory carries weight. The things they once ignored, the gestures they once took for granted, are now the very things that haunt them. They remember the way you always listened, even when they had nothing important to say. They remember the way you understood them in ways no one else did. They remember the way you stood by them, even when they gave you every reason to leave. And now those memories feel like chains around their mind. They see you in places they used to go with you, a coffee shop, a street corner, a favorite song on the radio. What once were ordinary moments are now painful reminders of what they lost. They find themselves reaching for their phone, wanting to message you, to tell you they remember, to see if you still care. But they hesitate, because deep down, they know you don't need them anymore. And that realization breaks them. They thought they had power over you. They thought that walking away meant they could erase you, move forward without consequence. But life doesn't work that way. Some people leave footprints on your soul, and no matter how far you run, you cannot outrun their absence. The worst part? They remember the exact moment they lost you. It replays in their mind like a nightmare, the last conversation, the final words, the way you looked at them before you walked away for good. They can't escape it. Every time they close their eyes, it's there, gnawing at them, whispering the truth they don't want to face. They did this to themselves. And now, no matter how much time passes, no matter how many distractions they chase, you are always there. In the spaces between their thoughts, in the quiet moments they can't avoid. They hear your voice in their head, remembering the things you used to say, the advice, the reassurances, the moments when you believed in them more than they believed in themselves. And it fills them with regret, because now they see what they were too blind to appreciate before. You were the one person who truly understood them. And now they will never have that again. They might try to drown it out, surround themselves with new people, chase after meaningless connections, bury themselves in distractions, but none of it works. Because memories don't fade just because you want them to. They attach themselves to the soul, reminding you of everything you once had and everything you foolishly threw away. And so they sit with their regret, knowing they cannot turn back time, knowing that no matter how much they wish they had done things differently, they cannot undo the past. And worst of all, the more they remember, the more they realize while they are haunted by you, you are no longer thinking of them at all. There was a time when they saw you as just another presence in their life, someone always available, always giving, always willing to forgive. They knew you cared, and they used that knowledge to their advantage. They assumed that no matter what they did, no matter how carelessly they treated you, you would always be there, waiting, hoping, holding on. But something changed. Not in you, but in them. Because now, for the first time, they see you for what you always were, rare. They looked back and realized that what they had with you wasn't ordinary. It wasn't something that could be replaced, duplicated, or taken for granted. And that realization has shattered the illusion they once held, that you were just like everyone else. Because you weren't. You were different, and now they understand what they never did before. They see your patience in a world that is impatient. They see your kindness in a world that is selfish. They see your loyalty in a world that is filled with fleeting connections and shallow relationships. And it makes them sick with regret. Because they remember every moment they dismissed your value, every time they ignored your efforts, every time they made you feel like you were not enough, when in reality, you were more than they ever deserved. They thought they had options. They believed that there would always be someone else, someone easier, someone more convenient, someone who didn't challenge them to grow. But now, after losing you, they finally understand the truth. You weren't just an option. You were the best thing that ever happened to them, and they threw it away. The weight of this realization follows them everywhere. It lingers in the quiet moments, creeps into their thoughts when they least expect it. They see people come and go in their life, but none of them compare to you. None of them make them feel the way you did. Because the connection they had with you wasn't something they could manufacture with someone else. It wasn't surface level. It wasn't temporary. It was real. And now, as they sit with the echoes of what once was, they begin to grasp the gravity of their loss. They see you now, not as the person they took for granted, but as the person they never truly appreciated. They think back to the moments when they should have said thank you, but didn't. The moments when they should have held on tighter, but chose to push you away instead. The moments when they could have loved you better, but instead they let their pride, their ego, their selfishness convince them that you would always be there. But you're not there anymore. And that is what breaks them the most. Because now the one thing they wish for the most is the one thing they can never have again, a second chance. But life does not grant second chances to those who waste what they were given. Now they see your worth. Now they understand what they lost. And now they must live with the painful truth that they will never, ever find another you. At first, they didn't believe it. They thought you were just upset, just emotional, just going through a phase. They told themselves that eventually you would come back, that eventually you would miss them enough to reach out, that eventually the silence would break and things would go back to the way they were. But that moment never came. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and with every passing moment it became clearer you weren't coming back. And now that realization is suffocating them. Because they see now what they refused to see before. This isn't temporary. This isn't some dramatic reaction. This isn't you trying to teach them a lesson. This is final. You are gone, and they don't know how to handle it. At first, they were arrogant. They assumed you were just waiting, that you would eventually break down and reach out, desperate for closure, desperate to fix things, desperate for their validation. But the longer the silence stretched, the more that arrogance turned into doubt. Because suddenly, it wasn't you who was missing them, it was them missing you. They started checking their phone more often, hoping to see your name appear on the screen. Every notification made their heart race for a second, only to be met with disappointment when they realized it wasn't you. They started replaying old conversations, rereading the words they once ignored, trying to find some hidden meaning, some sign that you still cared. They started thinking about all the things they should have said, all the apologies they never gave, all the ways they should have treated you better. And slowly they realized the truth. You have moved on. And they are stuck. They thought they were the strong one, the one who had control, the one who made the decisions. But now they see how powerless they really are. because no matter how much they regret, no matter how much they wish they could take back their mistakes, no matter how much they pray for another chance, they cannot make you return. And that truth eats away at them. They feel it when they wake up in the morning, reaching for their phone, only to remember that you're not there anymore. They feel it when they go to sleep at night, staring at the ceiling, consumed by thoughts of you, wondering if you ever think about them the way they think about you. They feel it in every familiar place, every familiar smell, every song that reminds them of you, because now they finally understand what they lost. And it is unbearable. They try to distract themselves. They go out with friends, surround themselves with noise, try to fill the void with shallow conversations and temporary company. But it doesn't work, because none of it is you. And the truth they avoided for so long now stares them in the face. They never thought this day would come. They never thought they would be the one left behind. They never thought you would have the strength to truly walk away. But you did. And now they know that no matter how much they wish for it, no matter how much they cry, no matter how many times they replay the past in their mind, you will never come back. And that is a pain they will carry for the rest of their life. The finality of your absence is something they never prepared for. They always thought there would be a way back, a moment where they could undo the damage, an opportunity to fix what they broke. But the reality is cruel. And now they are forced to face a truth they never saw coming. You are never coming back. At first, they didn't panic. They believed it was just a matter of time before you reached out, before the silence became too much for you to bear. They had convinced themselves that you needed them more than they needed you, that eventually you would break, that you would come back seeking closure, seeking understanding, seeking them. But time passed, and you never reached out. And now the panic has set in. They can't ignore it anymore. They can't pretend it's just temporary, because every passing day is proof that you have moved on. Every moment that goes by without a message from you, without a sign that you still care, chips away at their pride, their ego, their sense of control. And it's terrifying, because for the first time they feel powerless. They used to believe they had all the control. They thought they could walk away and decide later if they wanted to return. But now they realize they made the biggest mistake of their life, because they no longer have access to you. They can't call you like they used to. They can't manipulate the situation with empty apologies. They can't try to worm their way back into your life when it's convenient for them. They lost that privilege the moment they chose to betray you. And now they have to live with that reality. They spend their days wondering what you're doing, who you're with, if you ever think about them. They scroll through old messages, replay old conversations, search for clues that maybe, just maybe, there's still a way back in. But deep down, they know the truth. That door's closed. They had their chance. They had every opportunity to appreciate you, to value you, to fight for you. But they didn't, and now they must live with the consequences of their own choices. The worst part, they know that even if they tried to come back, even if they begged, even if they poured out every regret in their heart, you wouldn't take them back. Because you've changed. You've grown. You've evolved past them. You've become someone who no longer accepts bare minimum effort, manipulation, or one-sided love. And that is what truly breaks them. Because the one thing they were so sure of, the belief that they could always have you if they wanted, is gone. Now, they are the ones suffering in silence. Now, they are the ones feeling abandoned, overlooked, and forgotten. Now, they are the ones left behind. And they know with absolute certainty, this time, you're never coming back. Life has a way of teaching people the lessons they refuse to learn when they have the chance. The ones who betrayed you, abandoned you, and dismissed your worth are now the ones drowning in regret. They sit in silence, haunted by the echoes of your absence, tormented by the realization that they destroyed something irreplaceable. They thought they could walk away without consequence. They believed you would always be there, waiting, hurting, longing for them to return. But the truth is, they overestimated their importance in your life and underestimated your ability to heal, to rise, to move forward without them. And now they are trapped. Trapped in their own choices, in the weight of their regret, in the memories that refuse to fade. They see you thriving, untouchable, unbothered, and it shatters them. They cry not for you, but for themselves, because they finally understand what they lost. But you have no reason to look back. You have no reason to pity them, because your power was never in their hands to begin with. The greatest revenge is not anger. It is not hatred. It is not bitterness. The greatest revenge is indifference. You have taken back your energy, your love, your loyalty, and given it to the one person who always deserved it, yourself. And that is why they are crying now. Not because they miss you, but because they finally understand they will never have you again. So walk forward, head held high, because you were never the one who lost anything. They were.